welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are doing my most anticipated releases for the first half of 2023. So I'm going to just be doing anticipated releases for the first half of the year because there are always more things that get announced throughout the year, and so I usually, I've tried to do the whole year at the beginning of the year, and then I end up having to do another video halfway through the year anyway because more stuff has been announced. And there are lots of things that I know that I'm excited about them, but not much information is out yet for the second half of the year, so we're gonna hold off on those. We're just talking about the first half. I think I have about 18-ish anticipated releases. There are lots of books that I am interested in and will be keeping an eye on. I have a shelf in my Goodreads that is just 2023 releases that has 60 something books on it. So those are things that I have at least some degree of interest and I'm kind of keeping an eye on, but these are the ones that have sort of risen to the top and I think I am most likely to actually read in one way or another, whether that is buying the physical book, getting the audiobook somehow, what have you. So, as per usual, these are not necessarily books that I am definitely going to be buying or reading, but these are the ones that I am at the moment most interested in. Okay, let's just get into it. I have my laptop here. I've got a spreadsheet with all of these, and we're gonna go through and I will read you the descriptions for them and talk about why I'm excited for them. Also, I am going to just be putting these in order of publication, but generally be doing it just by month. So January releases, February releases, not specific dates. And as per usual, release dates are subject to change, but at the moment, this is the most accurate information I could find on the timing of these releases. Okay, so first book, January releases. We actually do have an author that I have read before, which is Sean McGuire's Lost in the Moment and Found. Every January there is a release from this series. This is the 8th book in the Wayward Children series, which is a series of novellas about children who go to various portal worlds, and then they always end up somehow back in our world. And so every other book in the series is following a continuous timeline that has to do with a group of characters in our world at this home for wayward children. And then every other book takes place in one of these portal worlds following a character who has gone into one of these magical worlds. So this one, the description says, "Welcome to the shop where the lost things go. If you ever lost a sock, you'll find it here. If you ever wondered about a favorite toy from childhood, it's probably sitting on a shelf in the back. And the headphones that you swore that this time you'd keep safe, you guessed it. Antoinette has lost her father, metaphorically. He's not in the shop and she'll never see him again. But when Auntie finds herself lost, literally this time, she finds that however many doors open for her, leaving the shop for good might not be as simple as it sounds. And stepping through those doors exacts a price." So this is a series that I have just really been enjoying as each installment comes out. And you know what? I am not usually a big fan of portal fantasy, and this is the one exception. So it's a great series, and I think it's because I just really like Sean McGuire. Okay, next up we have a book that honestly my enthusiasm for this book is probably mostly based on the cover because I don't remember what it's about at all, but it is called God Killer by Hannah Kanner, which it just has a great cover. And I don't remember what it's about, but I'm excited about it because of that. So let's read the description. It says, "Kissin kills gods for a living, and she enjoys it. That is until she finds a god she cannot kill. God of white lies who is connected to a little noble girl on the run. Elogast fought in the god war and helped purge the city of 1,000 shrines before laying down his sword. A mysterious request from the king sends him racing back to the city he destroyed. On the way he meets a god killer, a little girl and a littler god who cannot find out about his quest." I think that sounds interesting. I really don't know what to expect from this, but really this is one that most of my enthusiasm is for the cover. So will that pan out for me? maybe not, but we'll see. Next up is Spice Road by Maya Ibrahim, which looks very interesting. It says that it is set in an Arabian-inspired land. Raised to protect her nation from the monsters lurking in the sands, 17-year-old Imani must fight to find her brother, whose betrayal is now their greatest threat. In the hidden desert city of Kalia, secret spice magic awakens affinities in those who drink the Misra tea. With an affinity for iron, 17-year-old Imani wields a dagger like no other warrior, garnering her the reputation as the next greatest shield for battling the dangerous jinn, ghouls, and other monsters that lurk in the sands beyond the city limits. Her reputation has been overshadowed, however, by her brother, who tarnished the family name after he was discovered stealing their nation's coveted spice. So I just think that sounds really cool. I love the cover for this one. It's so pretty. I think that an Arabian-inspired world sounds really cool. And I always think these kind of magics where it's like it awakens an affinity for certain things, and for her, she's an affinity for iron, and so she's a great warrior. I think it sounds great. Okay. After Spice Road, we have The Terraformers by Anna Lee Newitz, which I have a couple of sci-fi books on this list, which I think is because I am trying to get into sci-fi, and so like my excitement and enthusiasm for sci-fi books has just been getting higher recently. I have not been reading more sci-fi, but I've been getting more excited about it. I am hoping that the hype that I am building for myself around sci-fi as a genre will then lead to me actually reading more sci-fi. We'll see, but I have a couple of sci-fi releases that I'm excited about. So one of them is The Terraformers. So it says, The Terraformers is an equally heartwarming and thought-provoking vision of the future for fans of Becky Chambers and Martha Wells. Destry is a top network analyst with the Environmental Rescue Team, an ancient organization devoted to preventing ecosystem collapse. On the planet Sask-E, her mission is to terraform an Earth-like world with the help of her taciturn moose, Whistle. But then she discovers a city that isn't supposed to exist, hidden inside a massive volcano. Torn between loyalty to the ERT and the truth of the planet's history, Destry makes a decision that echoes down the generations. Centuries later, Destry's protege, Misha, is building a planet-wide transit system when his worldview is turned upside down by Sulfur, a brilliant engineer from the volcano city. Together, they uncover a dark secret about the real estate company that's buying up huge swaths of the planet, a secret that could destroy the lives of everyone who isn't Homo sapiens. This just has a lot of things about it. So, you know, it says for fans of Becky Chambers, which I'm kind of lukewarm about her, is it the Wayfarers series? But I love her Monk and Robot books, and so that piques my interest. The fact that there's a character who has a taciturn moose, like, fabulous. I'm excited about it. It says that they're working with a team of robots, naked mole rats, and a very angry cyborg cow. Like, this sounds like it is going to be very fun and funny. Maybe if they're comparing it to Becky Chambers, I'm assuming it's going to be kind of wholesome, but also seems like it'll tackle some real interesting topics and themes. So I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, after that, we have a book that I have not a lot of information about. Like, there's no cover for it, but it is Glendower, The Last Prince of Wales by Morgan Llewellyn, which is historical fiction. Oh, right, we've made it into February now. So, as I said, this is historical fiction. Morgan Llewellyn is an author that I tried to read and DNF'd one of her books before. However, I don't think it's one of her more well-loved books or anything, so maybe it wasn't the best place to start. I think it was the one called Druids. I got partway into it and was just like, I'm not super into this, but I do want to try more of her books because she is really well known specifically for writing like historical fiction, just nonfiction history, and historical fantasy about the medieval Celtic world, which is something that I love. So I would like to try more books from her. I actually might also be trying some more of her backlist books. But this one specifically is about Glendower. So it says, Glendower tells the epic tale of Owen Glendower, the last Welshman to hold the title of Prince of Wales, and his 5th century rebellion against the English crown. The Welsh marches between England and Wales are still under the tyrannical rule of the Norman barons, who conquered them and who consider the native Celtic inhabitants to be an inferior race. These Welsh subjects suffer the Normans' rule with grim fortitude, developing a deep hatred that will last for centuries. They are always looking for an opportunity to reclaim the country for themselves. All right, so we are now on to March. I only had one book in February, but I feel like February is never like a big release month, but March is a good one. So first up is one that I'm very excited for, which is The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the beginning of a new trilogy, which I'm so excited for because I finished the Daevabad trilogy this year and loved it. I love the way that S.A. Chakraborty writes characters and the complexities of their relationships and the politics and how it impacts all of these character motivations. I loved the Daevabad trilogy, so I'm really excited to have a new series coming out from her. And I have seen this one previously pitched as Sinbad the Sailor meets Ocean's 11, which sounds incredible. Like, I actually don't want to know too much about this one. It says, you know, she spins a new trilogy of magic and mayhem on the high seas in this tale of pirates and sorcerers, forbidden artifacts, and ancient mysteries in one woman's determined quest to seize a final chance at glory and write her own legend. There's a lot more to the description, but this is one that I'm just like pure enthusiasm. I need to know nothing about it. I'm just excited. Okay, and then another one that's coming out in March is The Moth Keeper by Kay O'Neill, which is a graphic novel which looks absolutely adorable. So Kay O'Neill, I think, is the same author that wrote the Tea Dragon Society graphic novels, which I loved. They're so sweet, so cute. And so I'm just really excited to have something else from them. Another one that I don't want to know too much about it because it doesn't really matter. I'm sure it's going to be great. But it says, being a moth keeper is a huge responsibility and a great honor, but what happens when the new moth keeper decides to take a break from the moon and see the sun for the first time? A middle grade fantasy graphic novel about passion, duty, and found family. Again, there's more to the description, but I'm just gonna stop there and just be like a pure ball of enthusiasm. No thoughts, just excited. Okay, next up we have Chaos and Flame by Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland. So Tessa Gratton is one of my favorite authors, so always excited to have something from her, but I've never read anything from Justina Ireland before. But it says this is the first book in a ferocious fantasy duology featuring ancient magic, warring factions, and a romance between the two people in the world with the most cause to hate one another. Darling Seabreak cannot remember anything before the murder of her family at the hands of House Dragon, but she knows she owes her life to both the power of her Chaos Boon and the House Kraken for liberating her from the sewers where she spent her childhood. So when her adoptive Kraken father is captured in battle, Darling vows to save him, even if that means killing each and every last member of House Dragon. Talon Goldhoard has always been a dutiful war prince for House Dragon, bravely leading the elite troops of his brother, the High Prince Regent. But lately, his brother's erratic rule threatens to undo 100 years of House Dragon's hard work, and factions are turning to Talon to unseat him. Talon resists until he's ambushed by a fierce girl who looks exactly like the one his brother has painted obsessively, repeatedly for years, and Talon knows she's the key to everything. So this sounds like it's going to have a bit of a enemies to lovers kind of dynamic in it, which honestly, not my favorite romance trope, but as I said, I love Tessa Gratton, so I'm gonna pretty much read whatever she comes out with, except for all those Star Wars books that she's been doing, because I just don't care about Star Wars. That is beside the point, but I'm excited about this. Okay, then we have a book that I am not sure how excited I am or not, but I wanted to mention it, which is A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher, which is her newest horror book, which I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about horror as a genre and if there's anything within it that I enjoy. I did read and enjoy What Moves the Dead this year by T. Kingfisher, which is why I am intrigued by this at all. But it is described as a haunting Southern Gothic. This is one that I don't really know what it's about, and I don't know if I really care. I'm just gonna give it a try and see how it goes. Okay, next up is another historical fiction that has a beautiful cover. It's called Wayward by Amelia Hart, and this one just sounds like it's gonna have a lot of nature themes and or vibes in it, so that sounds great to me. So it says, 3 women, 5 centuries, 1 secret. I had nature in my heart, she said, like she did and her mother before her. There is something about us, the wayward women, that bonded us more tightly with the natural world. We can feel it, she said, the way we feel rage, sorrow, or joy. In 2019, Kate flees an abusive relationship in London for Crow's Beck, a remote Cumbrian village. Her destination is Wayward Cottage, inherited from her great-aunt Violet, an eccentric entomologist. As Kate struggles with the trauma of her past, she uncovers a secret about the women in her family, a secret dating back to 1619, when her ancestor, Altha Wayward, was put on trial for witchcraft. Wayward is a stunning debut novel about gender and control, about the long echoes of male violence through the centuries, but more than that, it is a celebration of nature, female power, and breaking free. So, I sometimes really enjoy like generational stories following different generations of women, but I am especially interested in the promised nature vibes from this. So hopefully it makes good on that promise, because it sounds naturey and it looks beautiful. Okay, next up, we are into April now, and we have Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh. So Emily Tesh, I have read one novella from her, which I forgot the name of. It was called The Silver Wood or something like that. And I thought it was fine. I didn't like have a strong opinion about it, but this one sounds interesting. Also, another sci-fi. So excited about sci-fi this year. Okay, so it says, while we live, the enemy shall fear us. All her life, Keir has trained for the day she can avenge the murder of planet Earth. Raised in the bowels of Gaia Station, alongside the last scraps of humanity, she readies herself to face the wisdom, the all-powerful, reality-shaping weapon which gave the Majota their victory over humanity. They are what's left. They are what must survive. Keir is one of the best warriors of her generation, the sword of a dead planet. But when command assigns her brother to certain death and relegates her to the nursery to bear sons until she dies trying, she knows she must take humanity's revenge into her own hands. I just think that sounds really interesting, and I am excited about it. Okay, next we have Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. This is fantasy, and so I really want to give this a try because Fonda Lee has written some other books that I have not been interested in, but I would love to try her as an author because she wrote the Greenbone Saga, which is like magic mafia, essentially. And I don't like mafia stories, so I don't want to read that series, but I would love to try something from this author, and she finally has a book coming out that seems like something I would actually read, so I'm excited about it. Okay, Esther's family was torn apart when a manticore killed her mother and baby brother, leaving her with nothing but her father's painful silence and a single overwhelming need to kill the monsters that took her family. Then we have one that I just think sounds like it's going to be kind of fun, which is The Remarkable Retirement of Edna Fisher by E.M. Anderson. So this is a fantasy. It says, it is a fantasy in which a geriatric turned chosen one sets out to take down a sorcerer, killing knights like her long dead son, until abuse in the ranks makes her question who needs saving. When you're a geriatric armed with nothing but gumption and knitting needles, stopping a sorcerer from wiping out an entire dragon fighting organization is a tall order. So this sounds like it is just going to be very, it sounds kind of like funny and silly in some ways, but maybe it'll also have some heart to it, you know, because she's trying to avenge her son. But it just sounds like it'll be fun. Okay. After that, we have To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monoquill Blackgoose, which is a YA fantasy. So it says, a young indigenous woman enters a colonizer-run dragon academy and quickly finds herself at odds with the approved way of doing things. The remote island of Masquepog has not seen a dragon in many generations until 15-year-old Aakash finds a dragon egg and bonds with its hatchling. Her people are delighted, for all remember the tales of the days when dragons lived among them and danced away the storms of autumn, enabling the people to thrive. To them, Aakash is revered as a Nempeshwisit. I probably said that wrong. I'm going to have to find out how to pronounce that. A person in a unique relationship with a dragon. Unfortunately for Aakash, the English conquerors of her land have different opinions. They have a very specific idea of how a dragon should be raised and who should be doing the raising, and Aakash does not meet any of their requirements. There's more to this, but I don't really want to know too much more about it. It just sounds like it's going to be really interesting. Okay, then we have Venom and Vow by Anna Marie McLemore and Elliot McLemore, who are a married writing duo. I have read things from Anna Marie McLemore before, so this is going to be interesting to see them writing with with a writing partner. So it says, Cade McKenna is a transgender prince who's doubling for his brother. Valencia Palafox is a young dama attending the future queen of Eliana. Gail Palma is the infamous boy assassin Cade has vowed to protect, and Patrick McKenna is the reluctant heir to a kingdom and the prince Gail has vowed to destroy. Cade doesn't know that Gail and Valencia are the same person. Okay, so again, there's more to it, but I'm already intrigued by this, and as I said, I've read things from Anna Marie McLemore before and really enjoyed them. The stuff that I have read before usually has been more magical realism, and this seems like it might be more like fantasy, so that'll be interesting to see something new from them. Okay, after that, we have The Witch King, or just Witch King, from Martha Wells, which is fantasy. Martha Wells has, I think, is the author of the Murderbot books, which I always hear really great things about, which I might give a try at some point, but I haven't read them yet, and they just like haven't really sounded like something I wanted to read. But this is fantasy, and so I am more excited about it. But maybe I should give Murderbot a try because I want to read more sci-fi, and that is sci-fi. Anyways, Witch King. So it says, after being murdered, his consciousness dormant and unaware of the passing of time while confined in an elaborate water trap, Kay wakes to find a lesser mage attempting to harness Kay's magic to his own advantage. That was never going to go well, but why was Kay imprisoned in the first place? What has changed in the world since his assassination, and why does the Rising World Coalition appear to be growing in influence? Kay will need to pull his allies close and draw on all his pain magic if he is to answer even the least of these questions. He's not going to like the answers. So that sounds like it's going to be really interesting, but as I said, I really just want to try reading something from Martha Wells because I've heard so much about Murderbot. Alright, after that, we have another one where I don't know too much about it. I didn't read like the entire description because just the first bit that I read at the beginning sounded very interesting. So it is The Surviving Sky by Kritika A.H. Rowe, which is sci-fantasy, but it says it is a Hindu philosophy-inspired debut science fantasy following a husband and his wife racing to save their living city and their troubled marriage, high above a jungle world besieged by cataclysmic storms. As their paths become increasingly intertwined, deathly truths emerge, challenging everything each of them believes, and as the earth rages become longer and their floating city begins to plummet, Erevan and Alia's discoveries might destroy their marriage, their culture, and their entire civilization. So, I just think this sounds really interesting. A Hindu philosophy-inspired sci-fantasy world. just sounds really cool. It has this like floating world, and I think it's interesting that it is following a married couple and that like their marriage is going to be a part of the story. Actually, I just realized that I did not say that the last 2 books were May releases. So To Shape a Dragon's Breath and Venom and Vow were both in May, and The Surviving Sky is a June release. So we're into June releases now. Next up, in June, The Pomegranate Gate by Ariel Kaplan, which is fantasy. Another one that I don't know too much about, and it has a very long description, but I don't want to read it because I kind of want to not know too much. But I think that it has Jewish characters in it, which is very exciting. So that's kind of all I want to know at this point. So that's all I'm gonna tell you. All right, and then the last one on this list is The Archive Undying by Evan Miko Candon, which is mech sci-fi, which I don't know too much. I had to Google what that meant. But it has a giant robot in it. And I don't know if that's a thing in sci-fi that I'm interested in, but we're gonna find out. So it says, war machines and AI gods run amok in the Archive Undying. When a city dies, its city dies with it. When a city falls, it leaves a corpse behind. When that corpse runs off, only devotion can bring it back. When the robotic god of Quan Mo went mad, it destroyed everything it touched. It killed its priests, its city, and its wondrous works, but in its final death throes, the god brought one thing back to life, its favorite child, Sune. For the 17 years since, Sune has walked the land like a ghost, unable to die, unable to age, and unable to forget the horrors he's seen. He's run as far as he can from the wreckage of his faith, drowning himself in drink, drugs, and men. But when Sune wakes up in the bed of one of the men he never should have slept with, he finds himself on a path straight back to the world of gods and machines. So this also, again, seems like a sci-fi that will have some very interesting, like, thematic elements to it, I'm hoping. But more sci-fi. I'm determined for this to be a sci-fi year where I read sci-fi books. And I'm going to just manifest this by talking about more and more sci-fi books until I get hyped about it, which I'm working up to it. So those are my most anticipated releases for the first half of 2023. I would love to know, what are some of your most anticipated releases for the first half of the year? Is there anything that you think I should have included, that you think I left off, or just something that you're personally excited for? I would love to know about it. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.